It's a me, Mario. It's not really Mario, it's Mike. If you're paying attention, thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to get this live stream cracking. Going to be painting a lot of miniatures tonight. My goal is to get through at least 10 minis, and I can't wait to show you how I'm going to do it. Let us rock and roll. Do 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 do. Boo boo. Do 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 do. I'm loving it. I need to update to the latest version of Twitch. There we go. Alright, switch. Yay. Up a loop. Nope. I do not want to sign up for multi-stream. There we go. Alright, I am ready to paint. Man, did I have a good weekend. I got to play some Marvel Crisis Protocol. I got to hang out with the Nerd Bros. And we played some Monster Hunter World. I got to play Flesh and Blood. I got to play Hi Ho Cheerio. I got to play Shoots and Ladders. It was just a fun-filled weekend of gaming. And I'm so glad to have gaming in my life. It really does make the difference to me to have this outlet. And I hope that if you like what I'm doing, you'll give me a little shout out, say hi, share the stream, give a little hidey 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 hey, or a little hidey 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 ho. We'll be working with a lot of different paints today. Normally I just use my Pro Aquarel paint line from Monument Hobbies, but I'll actually be using some Citadel contrast paints. In fact, the majority of my painting today will be with Citadel contrast paints, and then I'll be using some of the Crystallarium Pro Filter Wash paints that my buddy Derek makes for some glazing / blending effects. Very excited to try those out. Flesh Terror Red. I don't think I want Flesh Terror Red. I want Blood Angel Red. We're going to be trying a bunch of different techniques, or a bunch of different paints today. Not something I normally do. I normally stick with one paint line and go with that. Today we going all in. We're gonna try some new things. We're gonna liven it up. We're gonna get the painting. Grab brushes. Oh, I did a lot of this work ahead of time because I didn't want everybody to have to watch me dry brush 13 models, but I'm going to show you how to prep models with the Slapchop technique. Oy. Okay, so let us pop it up. Ta-da! Hey everybody, very excited to be here. Thank you for joining me today on the Big Bad Nerd Dad stream. We will be painting the start of my Warcry army for the Seraphon. And it's really just a bunch of skinks and some pterodons. They're these really neat little lizard men and pterodactyls. I'm very proud of them. They're going to look really neat. So what I want to do first is thank everybody for coming out, watching the stream, and for taking a chance on me, because I'm new. I don't have a lot of money, but I do like what I'm doing. So give me a watch, give me a hey howdy hey, and we will start our day. Double webcam. Booyaka. Alright. Tilt this down just a little bit so you don't see my raggedy. Boop. Alright, so today we will be painting the Hunters of Hachui. They are a war band for the game Warcry. Everyone starts somewhere. Thank you, Vamp Orchid. Vamp Orchid, that is a pretty name. I like that. Vamp Orchid. Be painting some of my little lizard men. You can see them in the background. Ta-da! I will be painting these little lizard men for the war game Warcry. It is a skirmish style war game where you can take anywhere from 5 to... I've got 13 models to paint. Oh, thanks for following, Vamp Orchid. Greatly appreciate that. So, when you first get the models, you assemble them and they come in this very generic gray. They come in like a little multi-part kit. It'll come on a small sprue like this. You clip them out, you assemble them. They'll come out looking something like this. From there, I prime mine a matte black. Vamp Orchid, I have been painting minis 2007, 2006. About 17 years? 17 years, yeah, 17 years now. And I'm constantly learning. That's one of the things that I love about the hobby, is that I'm constantly learning new techniques. I'm trying out different paints. I'm learning my painting style. Today we'll be trying out the Slapchop method. So like I said, I like to prime with a black. New to streaming, but I'm newer to minis. Oh, cool. Well, my stream is definitely geared towards beginners, so welcome to my mini stream. Hey, Hayden. I got these from my local game store. If you like war games, I highly recommend finding a local game store. In particular, mine is my oh yeah, I mean there's tons of people that are very, very good at painting miniatures, and it's all about the different techniques that you can find. Hayden, I got these miniatures. If you look in the bottom corner, Space Cadets Gaming is where I got mine from. They're a local game store that sponsors me. Very nice people. They throw events all the time. They hold painting classes. They hold RPG days. They hold wargaming days, board gaming, card gaming, all different types of stuff. And they're fantastic for the community. They're constantly holding events to get people together. and I genuinely like the owner, Brian. Their staff is very friendly, and they help you out as much as they can. And if you need something, they can order it for you. In fact, they have an online store. So if there's anything in particular that you're looking to buy and you are looking for gaming stuff, I highly recommend Space Cadets Gaming. If you throw them into the Google, they'll pop right up. Space Cadets Gaming. But as for today, we'll be doing the Slapchop method. So I've primed my model black. And yesterday, I sat down for maybe 45 minutes and dry brushed these little guys. So they're essentially the same model. I know it's hard to see because of the lighting, but nope. But what you do is you just take a light gray paint, dry brush over that black, let it dry a little bit, dry brush a bunch of other models, and then you'll go back and lightly go over with a pure white to really bring out those edge highlights. And you'll see why in just a second. I want to show you how to dry brush right now. It's very easy, very simple. You just take some of that light gray that I was talking about before, give it a little shake. I really like these Pro Acryl paints from Monument Hobbies. They have like a little glass bead on the inside. Thanks, Vamp Orchid, for lurking. I greatly appreciate it. So I'm going to take this paint, put it in my little paint tray, and a little bit will go a long way, especially with dry brushing, right? Because you're not painting the model. You're lightly going over the model. So I'll be dry brushing 2 models on stream today. This little, it's called a skink, like a little lizard, a skink. And then I'll be dry brushing this pterodon. He's quite a bit larger than the skink. Put them side by side. But they're on the same team, so it's okay. Alright, so I am going to get just a very little bit on this dry brush. This brush is made specifically for just barely getting paint onto a model. It's got very stiff bristles, and I'm going to put just a little bit of paint onto the tip of it, and then pretty much wipe it off until there's almost no paint on it. You still want it to be wet. I don't recommend drying off or putting it to a... Alright, so check out his little face. His little face. A bunch of models here. Let me push that out of the way. See his little face? Alright. We're just going to... By dry brushing, you're going to bring out the edge highlights. And again, I'm not painting this model like painting it, putting on a whole bunch. I am just going to lightly apply the paint on there. And you can see it's just getting the edges of it. I got to be careful because I snapped a couple of these little guys off yesterday. I'm literally just dragging my brush across. So you can look at his face on this side in comparison to this side. All black, dry brush. And so what this does is this will show all of the really cool details of the model without completely gunking over it with a bunch of thick paint. So I will continue to lightly dry brush this model over and over and over until I am satisfied with the level of detail that I've gotten out of it. And again, I'm not pushing deep in there. The paint, there's not a lot of paint loaded on my brush. There's a very small amount of paint on my brush. And the reason I'm doing this is so that I don't get a ton of paint on the model and get it all super covered and get all the paint inside of the crevices of the details. That way, when I go back later with my contrast paints, it'll give you a very stark contrast instead of like a light contrast. When Games Workshop or Citadel came out with their contrast paints, they completely primed the model white like this. Completely primed it white, and then they were showing people, hey, apply it to your model, and then the contrast paints will form to it. I think I got a like from somewhere. Somebody give me a like. Well, by doing this Slapchop method, you are very lightly applying the paint to areas where you're going to get more detail than if you just normally painted the model. It's really, really going to make these details pop. Look at the face now. And then I give it a quick little dry brush. Give his arm a dry brush. Look at that face. It really, really makes those edge highlights stand out. So that when I apply the contrast paint later with specific colors and specific areas, it'll keep that deep dark, the deep dark parts darker and really make the contrast pop. I was very fortunate. I have several contrast paints myself. But one of my nerd bros, Vincent Ironblood, that's his in-game character's name, loaned me some greens and some reds. So I can increase my palette size. Hey, Shane and James, thanks for watching. I greatly appreciate you watching, sharing, liking, whatever you do. It helps me out. So again, I really like this Slapchop method because it is super simple. Oop. And I busted my little dude off his base. That's okay. I did this yesterday to a bunch of the minis. I'm just going to reglue them. All part of modeling. And now I can get to his shield a little bit better. All right. It happens. When something like this happens, it's no big deal. These minis are fragile. They will pop. They will snap. I live in Texas, so if you leave them in your car, they will melt. All I'm going to do is apply some glue. Bloop. And I've had a lot of people ask me when I assemble my models, what do I use? I like this generic Loctite super glue gel control. The gel makes it so that it's not running all over the place and it won't get into little crevices. Take this off. It's a little bit more stable. All these little chameleon skink guys have super little contact points, so their ankles snap, their wrists snap. um, where their weapons are snap. Just something I've had to deal with, and really when you're in the modeling game, you get used to it, especially with some of the finer detail models. Look, he's almost back to 100%. So I'm just gonna set him down gently, move him to the side. I'm actually gonna put him up here so I don't accidentally bonk into him. Oops. He's magnetized, so he just flew across my laptop. I'm gonna set him over here so I don't bump into him. And now we are going to dry brush this big boy. This is a pterodon. He's one of my big brutes for my Warcry army. Warcry is the skirmish level game for Age of Sigmar. That's a Games Workshop miniatures game. Water. Stay hydrated. Summer's here. Well, summer's here in Texas. Summer never really leaves. And so normally in Age of Sigmar or even Warhammer 40k, you get dozens, maybe hundreds of models onto the field, and you play on a 4x4, 4 foot by 4 foot, or 4 foot by 8 foot table, 4 foot by 6 foot. I don't know. I don't play big scale war games as much anymore. I might get into 40k because Space Cadets has a great 40k wargaming community. Alright, so take a look at his face. Got his face. I'm just going to lightly drag this brush with the light gray on it over his face. Ever so lightly, over and over and over. And that just starts pulling out all those details of its face. And so Games Workshop has some amazing models. Some of them are very detailed, beautiful looking. Even for these monstrous creatures, they have some very gory creatures too. With a bunch of rotting limbs or exposed entrails, and it can be a bit much for some, but like these little guys, these lizard men, these are the goodest of guys. They come from the heavenlies to help out the realms of order, stamp out chaos and destruction. That's not why I got them. I got them because I like lizard men. So I'm not used to painting or trying this Slapchop method on super flat surfaces, and his wings, all of their wings, have been like super flat in certain areas. So I'm interested to see what that's going to look like when I finish it out. Especially since I've decided to try a color that I'm not too familiar with. Okay. Hayden, that's a good question. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, Hayden Flint has asked on YouTube, or yeah, Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube. Hayden Flint has asked if I like Age of Sigmar, Horus Heresy, or 40k. And the answer to that is I am not a big fan of the larger scale games like 40k or Age of Sigmar. I like their skirmish level games. So Warcry, Kill Team. I don't think there's a skirmish level game for Horus Heresy yet, but if it comes down to aesthetics, I much prefer the fantasy creatures of Age of Sigmar to the neo-gothic sci-fi, gothic sci-fi of 40k. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, I have a Death Watch. I have a Death Watch team. I have a Death Watch team. But I just much prefer fantasy. I mean, the models are cool all the way around. Any way you look at it. 40k has some awesome looking mechs. I would never play them, but the Death Guard, the evil, I say evil, I mean, there's not a really good guy team in 40k, but the undeadish work for the Death God, Space Marines, look really neat. They have beautiful models. They're, when you look at them, there's nothing like them. They're very well detailed. You can paint them so many different ways. And so for this Slapchop technique, again, all I'm doing is priming them black, dry brushing them, and if you go to an art store or if you go to your local hobby game store and ask them for a dry brush, they can point you in the direction of a good dry brush. I'm using an Army Painter hobby dry brush. And there aren't too many brushes that I recommend getting fancy versions of. Like a majority of the brushes that I use are from Walmart or Dollar General, or they're really cheap brushes that I just buy a bunch of, and as I go through them, I get new ones. But the dry brush is a brush that I do recommend getting a good, nice, good quality version of it, because you do not want a dry brush that is just going to fall apart on you or not work accordingly, especially with what you're trying to achieve with your paints. Okay, I'm going to finish it up by doing his basing, giving that a little dry brush. I'm going to go back over it later with some colors, make it look a little bit more stony and earthy. Again, all I'm doing is taking a little bit of paint on my dry brush. You see how I'm just cramming my dry brush with no qualms of its well-being. Just and this technique can be used on any size miniature. I'm doing it on these smaller Warcry, Age of Sigmar, Now these are 28 millimeter, 32 millimeter miniatures. But I have also used it on my Monster Hunter World miniatures, which they can get pretty big and chunky. Anywhere from, I think I did one yesterday that was 70 millimeters up to the big, large scale 150 millimeter giant Terragosa and Near Gigante. So they're huge, massive models. And this technique works perfect. Scales up, scales down. It's just, if you're doing a larger size model, use a larger size brush. So you're not taking forever to do it. And next we're going to move on to so like I did with the other ones, I gave them a good quick dry brush with the gray. I want to go back over them with the brilliant white and lightly do the hard edges so that it gives you even more of a contrast on those edges. Shake, 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 shake. I really like these Pro Acryl paints from Monument Hobbies because they come with the little bearing or glass bead, whatever it is that's on the inside of the bottle to help stir up the pigmentation. Each paint has fantastic pigmentation. It's a nice solid color all the way through. Everything, all of the colors that I've worked with flow very well. You know, none of them are too goopy. I know that when I used to use Army Painter, their white was almost like a paste instead of a actual paint, a fluid paint. All right, so you see, you're watching me. I'm just load my paintbrush up, take off a little bit of the paint on my hand, and then go back over those areas to get the hard edges. Really make some of those details pop. And the reason we're doing that is because the lighter the color. Hey Joe, thanks for watching. The lighter the color when you're doing this slap chop technique, like the more bright or brilliant the white of the dry brush, the more that color will pop with the contrast paints. So we got the birdie face. Get the birdie back. And again, we do this so that once we drop that contrast paint on there, that contrast paint will have, the contrast paint is always going to settle in the recesses. But if there's a variance in that color of the recesses, if there's a variance in the color of the model already, instead of it being just a pure white, it'll really make the color difference of that contrast paint. And I really want to have a good pop of color on the edge of his wings. I'm going to do those a green, like a dark green, and then the inside of his wings and body is going to be yellow. This is the first time I've ever actually used a yellow. So I got some of that Bad Moon yellow contrast paint from Citadel Couleur. That's the fancy way to say it. All right. Give a quick dry brush. Here. Here. Get those little skulls. See that little skulls on his face? Pop him off. I already magnetize all these little guys. Put it into my case. Right. And then last but not least, we're going to do the other little skink that I started on beforehand. He should be ready to go. I busted him off of his base a little earlier. So we're just going to Aiden, if you're still watching, the reason that I have this attached to a pill bottle is because it's much easier to turn and manipulate the model when you're not actually holding it by its base or by the model itself, so that you can get into other tight areas that you normally wouldn't be able to. I never did this until last year. I've been painting for going on 17 years now. I highly recommend. You can see it's not a fancy setup. This is an old pill bottle with ticky tack on top, with poster tack on top. Oh, there he goes. Gonna give him a light dry brushing. All right. And we are going to attempt to re-glue him for a second time this stream. Glue the foot. I might give it a little extra glue. Let me give it just a little extra glue. Glue him in. Again, all these little Seraphon skink warriors. Yeah, they make model holders, model stands. But the truth of the matter is they all do the same thing. And why spend 25 or 30 bucks on a little holder when I've got ticky tack and pill bottles at home? Right? For the price of one branded model holder, you could get 3 or 4 paints. It just makes fiscal money wise sense to not spend your money on random things like that. You don't need fancy clippers. You really don't need fancy brushes, except for maybe a good high detail brush and a dry brush. Alright, I gotta save him for last. I keep busting him up, so he will be painted last today. So I'm very excited about this part now, because I've never done anything like it. Clean up. Always, always, always clean up your paints. Clean up your brushes immediately, so nothing dries too deep. Clean, 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 clean. Okay. I think this is the kind of brush that I want. Again, this is just Artist Loft is a Michaels brush. I think this brush came with about 19 other brushes for $5. So 20 brushes for $5. I'm going to apply my Mad Bad Moon yellow contrast paint. Do some of my Wingaling dragons. I want to start with this one. Okay. So with the contrast paints, you want to make sure that they're well shaken. I look through the bottom to make sure that there's no pigmentation or lumps stuck to the bottom. Citadel paints do not come with a bead or bearing or something on the inside of the bottle to make sure that all the pigmentation shakes up real good. So you just want to make sure that you shake it up real good. Oof, that is a bright yellow. All right. I've seen some people so these contrast paints are super cool. You paint it on and the color will start to stick into the recesses in different parts. Yeah. It's not like a normal paint where you're trying to get coverage everywhere. This paint will seep into the areas that it wants to seep into. Put that in focus. All right, so as you can see, that under layer of dry brush gives the wings an already different textured look when I apply this yellow to it. This is what the Slapchop method is made for. It gives you a variance in color and it gives the contrast paint somewhere to flow and look different. And I'm just going to slather this little guy in this yellow and let the paint do all the work. He's got like this bony beaky thing, so I don't want to get too much on or around that bony beaky thing, but I do want to get his spikes because I want to go back over those spikes with the green and I want to go around that beaky thingy. This is where you want a good controlled brush. And this contrast paint is going to do all the work for me. Oh, aside from the dry brushing that I did. I'm going to go back over and paint that tree brown. I'm not too worried about the tree. But we'll go back. Hey Isaac, thanks for watching. Everybody who's given me a like or shared the stream, thank you very much. It is extremely helpful to get me noticed by the algorithm, the almighty algorithm. All right. So here's another reason why it's a good idea to have one of these little stands, or to not just hold your model by the base. I can get into and hold the model in ways that I normally wouldn't be able to. Oh, put it to the stream, Ramirez. Up a loop. There we go. All right. So you can see what I'm going for. Practically painted himself. Hey, C, thanks for watching. Thanks, Hayden. I don't stream every day, but if you want, you can always go back to my YouTube channel and catch all of my old streams. I do all different types of painting tutorials, and I'm pretty soon I'll be doing gaming tutorials, and me and Mr. Joe have been talking about doing actual gameplay where we play on stream. So that'll be coming real soon. Thank you for watching, Hayden. That's my buddy Boink from Canada. Nope. I just did him. I'm going to wait. This is Bad Moon. Bad Moon Yellow. I wanted something stark and bright. Havoc Maker Studios. Haven't seen you in a long time, brother. Thanks for coming out. Havoc Maker Studios actually helped me get these models in particular. These actual models right here. So thank you very much, Havoc Maker Studios. Havoc Maker actually happens to be over on Twitch. So again, I do multi-stream. So if you're watching me on Facebook, thank you. If you're watching me on Twitch, thank you. If you're watching me on YouTube, thank you very much. If you somehow found me on TikTok, I'm still trying to figure that out. But I am on TikTok. The tickiest of talks. Point it to the camera. You great big lummox. Yeah. So this Slapchop method is a lifesaver. It's very simple. I really like how simple it is. Anybody can do it. It does a lot of the work for you. I want my pterodonies extra terrifying. We paint it up, paint it up, paint it up. Havoc Maker. Never heard of it. I have thoroughly been enjoying Monster Hunter World with my nerd bros. Monster Hunter World, the board game, right? I love the video game, but when they announced the board game, I was full tilt and had to get it. Very excited to check it out. And it's just like playing the video game with an actual group of friends in real time. You go on hunts, you're slaying monsters. Getting all the nooks and crannies. That's what the contrast paint is for. It does all the work for ya. It wants to. It wants to do the work for you. It's trying to help you out. Yeah, the Monster Hunter minis were fantastic. I got to finish up my Great Jaragus, and then I will be painting a Rathian on stream soon-ish. These little guys are magnetized, so every time I try and put them on my laptop, they just sort of jiggle across the laptop. Okay, I've got one more pterodon. Looks like I missed a spine on this one. Go. Yeah, Slapchop method. Fantastic, super fast. I'm going to knock out 13 models tonight because of it. I've been streaming for about an hour. But I talk through the first couple of minutes like I usually do. Doing a little Q&A. It does have the bird up bird. Bum 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 bird up. I can't remember what the name of the Kukalala, something like that. Yes. If you backed the Kickstarter, which I did, that creature is a Kickstarter exclusive. I got it. Picked it up. Probably one that we should do. Although I don't think it actually has any parts. Like, the board game plays just like the video game. So anytime you go on a hunt or you hunt a monster, you get parts from it. That particular monster, I don't think it has any real parts that go to it. But it may drop specialty parts like ancient bones or different pieces of ore. I have to look into it. Because the last time we played, we realized, oh, we need ore and we need these special bones, and we've got to figure out. It's just like the video game. You got to figure out which things drop what, where you can find it. Do we need to go on an expedition to just go looking for parts? It's a very neat aspect of the game. All right. I mean, just look at that. Look at that inside wing. Because of the dry brush that I did beforehand, it gives it a nice distressed look right at the ridge of the wing. I don't have to apply tons of layers. I don't have to glaze it. I don't have to worry too much about it. It does all the work for me. Dry brush, contrast paints, done. And there's tons of videos on YouTube of people using this technique to do much larger miniatures. And they come out looking beautiful. If you do it just right, you can make the miniature look like stained glass. And I think that's something that I want to try later on. And it's a fantastic technique. It has a beautiful final result. It's not time consuming. A novice can do it. Oh, if you can't see, somebody say something. I am a sucker for painting things off camera. Do it all the time. I mean, look at that. You got that nice dry brush, right? A good, even, simple dry brush. Put the contrast paint over it, and it gives you this variance in color that's very natural. Boom. And he's done. I'm gonna go back and make sure snag any pieces that I might have missed. I don't want to go to a event or tournament and people say, "Ooh, look at that sloppy job." I don't think anybody would, as long as you got some paint on your miniatures. Something is better than nothing. Cool. Last one. Make sure I got all the little bits and bombs. Get his little bottom. Alright, my pterodons are mostly done. I like that yellow. That's very, very different for me. What do we got? Hey, Tio Choco! These miniatures are from the Warcry miniature game. It's done by Games Workshop. Warcry is the skirmish level of Age of Sigmar. I don't like big army games as much as I used to. I do like smaller skirmish style games simply because I can get more done in the time frame. All right, so Yo Choco, we are using the Slapchop method. Again, this is one of the cooler methods that allows you to paint miniatures fairly fast. Let's see, I need a smaller brush to apply. All right. Hey Carlos, thanks for watching. I see you lurking, and that's okay. Every viewer matters. Every viewer sacred. Okay. Next up, I want to paint my hero character. So I decided from the get-go that I wanted my big dinos to be like yellow and orange, because this faction has bigger dinosaurs. I want them to be yellow and orange. And I want my little skinks to be this neat, like teal color. I'm pretty sure it's teal. I'm colorblind. When I look at it and I ask people, this is what they tell me. It's like a tealish color. I could be completely wrong. Could be purple. My wife would let me know. And so I will grab bloop, a little bit. So he's got this really cool looking skull thingy on. It's definitely in the way. But I'm going to use this little fine brush to get in there. Get him. Get his little snoot. Again, this is the beauty of the Slapchop method. You just go back, you dry brush everything, and then go back and pick the colors out. It's basically paint by numbers. Now I paint his little hands. Paint his little hands. Right. Paint my little dude blue. Alright, so you see his little tail? Paint the tail. The contrast paint gets into the recesses that didn't get quite as much of the dry brush. Loop. Creature report. Creature report. Creature report. So now I paint his little legs blue. Hey! I like it. Okay. So I've got two different types of skinks. I have these blow dark skinks, which somebody told me not to do because they're lame. So I was like, well, now I got to make a bunch of them. And then I have these melee weapon skinks with moonstone weapons. And I got to figure out what color I want the moonstones to be. Paint his little face. And look how the Slapchop techniques allows you to see all the different detail pop from the contrast paint. Yeah, you can use. I use these contrast paints from Citadel. Um, Army Painter has speed paints. They're the exact same thing. They're a contrast paint that uh, does most of the work for you, the shading and the layering and shadows. So there are different types of this contrast paint, and it just depends on what you can get locally and what you feel most comfortable using. Painted on stream? I know, I know. You can see how simple and fast this goes by. I'm literally just picking out the colors. Blip. This guy has a little frog attached to his back pocket. I gotta make sure that I paint that green. I'm gonna paint it a brilliant green, like a very bright. Might actually paint it yellow first, and then go back over with a thin green contrast. Again, we just let the contrast paint to do all the work for us. Lather it on, move it into the areas that we need it moved into for color. Paint my laptop. Újale. Two. Alright, I got two more of the Dark gun skinks. I really wish that I had these paints years ago when I first started. I think I'd have more confidence in my painting ability. Or I would have had more confidence in my painting ability. They make everything a lot simpler. Once you get used to the paint, you know how to pull it. You still need to know a little bit about color theory to make sure stuff matches, but it does all the work for you. Takes out all of the guessing. Meow. That was my cat, not my wife. Like I got everything I need to get on this one. So we'll be moving on to the next one. I really need to have some background music. I was told that I could use Game Chops as long as I gave him credit. I guess DJ Cutman, like that. What am I doing? What that thing's for? Another little frog. Gotta stay away from him. Want to paint him green. It's funny, it looks like they're using these dead little frogs that they have attached to them as like quivers for their darts. Little ammo caches. Gotta get all his little goobly bits. I really do like. Bless you. Oh, and that was it. Okay, so now we're gonna do the melee guys green. I'm doing them different colors so that when I'm playing the game, I can identify them. I can be like, okay, the blue guys are my range guys. They spit. The green guys are my melee beat 'em ups. And obviously the pterodactyls are going to be the pterodactyls. You, if you could hear that, my wife's a pterodactyl. A beautiful pterodactyl. Can never close these things properly. There we go. I think it's because I opened it improperly. This is why I prefer the dropper tops. There we go. Whew. That was a close one. Beautiful color. A nice teal. Reminds me of my good friend. If you're out there, friend, I wish you'd watch. Up a loop. Okay, so you stay over there, fat cat. That cat is fat. I'm going to save this guy for last because he keeps breaking. So we have a warp lightning. Or this peridot. I want to do the warp lightning. I stay up entirely too late. But you gotta do what you gotta do. Just double checking to make sure that there's no pigmentation on the bottom of this. Oh yeah, that's good. Just a few good solid whaps. Whaps. Switch her up. Grab it. Let me see. I'm not 100% sure what this color is going to look like. Let me put it on this. Whew. Yeah, if we thin it out, it looks good. Oh yeah, a deep green. I like it. I like it a lot. This will be a very good variance in color. So that when I'm looking at my models, when I'm playing it against somebody else, I can be like, okay, that guy is definitely not teal. That's a melee dude. I can bonk people with him. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Kind of a turtley green. I like it. This is called Warp Lightning. Pew. So because of the way these contrast paints work, sometimes you have to be careful as you're painting, because the paint will sort of, it flows in contours to the model itself. So if there's a hard edge or an edge that won't grab the paint will just slide down into the recesses and leave a little bit white or whatever the initial color was. You just got to be careful when you're using these contrast paints to be mindful and always go back and take a second look at your work. Don't think that you're completely finished, because you'll look back and be like, why is that leg white? Or why are those toes white? Even with the dry brushing, it can do that to you. To my 5 viewers, thank you very much. I don't know where you're at, but I'm extremely grateful. If you're watching me on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe. If you're watching me via Facebook, hit that like button and follow. If you're watching me on Twitch, please like me. So I think I have all the games for my Memorial Day stream. Very excited about that. We will be raising money for the Wounded Warrior Project that specifically helps out local veterans that are in need. And there are always veterans that could use our help. Alright. Our first little melee dude is done. Next little melee dude. Oh, I got to play Flesh and Blood. Friday night? Saturday night. Saturday night. Got to play Flesh and Blood Saturday night with my good buddy, Joe. Interesting game. Got some really cool mechanics. It's a little bit much. It's very, very aggressive. It's a very aggressive TCG. We were beating each other senseless for about 3 hours until I finally figured out how to play. And some of the games were down to the wire, getting us very close to either one of us could have had it at any time. It was a very neat experience. I had initially tried to get into Flesh and Blood when it first came out a few years ago, but it was just me and my wife. We had just had a baby. Just the timing was not right. Here we are, almost 3 years exactly later, and I can get out of my house. The wife can get out of the house. We're having date nights, having family days. We're functioning. So I said, why not add another game to the mix on top of the dozens of other ones that I'm doing? It was good. Had a good time with Joe. It's definitely a game that we can add to our Joe versus Schmo that we've been talking about for the past few years. There's going to be a segment on this stream where I face off against Joe in one-on-one combat. Alright. Another one. Look at that. I didn't notice there was like this little fern here. I'm gonna paint this fern. Speaking of fern, if you haven't seen, Chili Cone Gaming is back streaming all kinds of spooky games. I highly recommend checking out his stream. He's a video game streamer. Very funny guy. Good friend. I've known him for several years. Him and his wife are fantastic people. And he likes to stream all kinds of video games, but it's almost like he specializes in weird, creepy games. paint it on the stream. I'm trying. I swear I'm trying, guys. I just always pull it close to my chest when I paint. I love how clean and simple this paint job is. That was a Kingdom Hearts joke. Right. One more to go. I'm sorry, two more to go. Oh, whoops. Paint his little feet. So I was watching a tutorial on how to do this Slapchop method, and something really cool that I saw that I didn't get a chance to watch all the way through was they did non-metallic metallics with this Slapchop method. And I definitely want to try that out, because if you've never seen non-metallic metallics, you paint a metal weapon or a piece of metal with non-metallic paints, and it's very detailed, but it looks fantastic. And no matter what direction you look from, it always looks like it is a real piece of metal. Like it has this specific look to it. So that's something I'm going to try on the stream later. All right. Little spot on his ankle. That's why we don't just move on. Gotta go back and check your work. All right, cool. It's gonna need some glue. Can already tell. Again, these models are real small and finicky. Yeah, you gotta be careful with them. All right, now this last model I'm painting, I've broken it 3 times already. Let's see if I can keep it together. For one last model. Do 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 do. So my buddy Fallen Ink that I'm working on the Legend of Zelda RPG with, he has the Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 board games from Steamforge. We played through 2 a couple of months ago, almost a year ago. And it was a lot of fun. And now he's got to paint a bunch more zombies. And I really think that this Slapchop method is the best way to do it. Get some of that plague bearer flesh. Slapchop the zombies. Dry brush them real good. Okay, he's all done. And when they dry up, they look real good. So now all I have to do is go back through and pick out the details. Painting their blowguns, painting the base, painting their loincloths. Oh, I'm not done, but I did want to do this. We got green wings. Oh boy, we're doing real good. This makes up for me not streaming last week. All right, one more. Uno más. One more, and then we're done for the night. This has been a real neat experience using this Slapchop method. I really like it. It's very simple. Makes me feel like I've accomplished a lot. Missed one teensy tiny spot with the yellow, or maybe I didn't miss it and it just didn't catch that edge. All right. I will go back over them in the next day or two to modify their but to pick up the details of their little shield and weapons, their bone pieces with actual colors. But I like what I see so far. All of them are pretty much done. They have exactly what I needed them to be. Four ranged, 6 melee, 3 fast flyers, heavy hitters. So now all I have to do is learn how to play the game. I'm a hoot, I swear. But that's going to be it for me. Thank y'all very much for watching the stream tonight. I know I went a little long, but I needed to get this done because I've been wanting to play this game for a few months now. I will be back next Monday. Whoops. I will be back next Monday to paint some more things, talk about the VHS, the RPG. I've got some more miniatures to paint for Silver Bayonet. And I will continue to perfect my Slapchop technique. And thank you very much for watching. I hope you had a good time. If you had any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments here. Check out my Facebook page, Big Bad Nerd Dad on Facebook, and ask any questions. If you would like to see a certain game played, please let me know. I'm more than happy to try anything at least twice. So have a good night.